Okay, Megovanen everyone, welcome to my actual video review of Daredevil Born Again so far. I guess the first 6 episodes. So this week, which is March 25, 2025, but I think now at this point it's 26. It's past midnight, but they released 2 episodes, episodes 5 and 6. 5 involving a bank robbery, and we see Kamala Khan's dad from Miss Marvel and the Marvels. You'll see him in here. So I like how they're crossing over these characters from the different Marvel shows. Like Miss Marvel, even though I thought Miss Marvel, it could have been very good if they focused more on her and not so much on like the family and just going on their outings and things like that. And then I felt like when she's together with her friends, they all talk too much, but that's, we won't talk about that. And we also see swordsmen, swordsmen, not men, but swordsmen from Hawkeye, okay? And I think in the comics he's the guy that trained Hawkeye, supposed to be, but it's different here. But from the Hawkeye show, there's swordsmen, and we see him here. But I'll say that I thought that, initially, and I still somewhat stand by my score that I put on my post. I think it was, about 4 or 5 days ago. Was it 4 or 5? Or it might have been last week, I think, right? Because it was last week's episode, where I gave it a 6, but I meant to maybe give it more like a 6.25, maybe. No, 6.25. I was thinking maybe 6.75, or 6.5, but like a 6.25, okay? So somewhere around there. And that's not a bad score. A 6 is not bad. Just like people think, oh, something got a 6, it sucks, or even something got a 7, it sucks. It doesn't. I feel like nowadays everyone thinks everything considered good have to be like 8, 9, perfect 10, something like that. But what happened to the 6s and 7s being acceptable? Even 5, okay, that's where it's kind of a sort of like so-so score, and I can see that being more considered like a bad score, even though it's technically not bad. It's just not good, not bad, just mediocre. 5, but 6 is already it's okay. It's not bad at all, and I think it's around there, 6.25. But and the reason why I felt that they focused too much on a lot of drama and too much conversations and not enough action. It's a superhero film. It's called Daredevil Born Again, and he hasn't gotten back into costume until now, this episode, which is episode 6. I'll say that I felt that, and I'm not going to go through the past 4 episodes because I already kind of talked about it in the post, but I feel that with episode 5 and 6, they started to kind of make up for that, for the lack of action, I guess, and how boring it started to become. It's not necessarily bad having like that courtroom scene, but I think that was like episode 3. But then it was followed by episode 4, the next episode, that was just equally slow. So to me, it's unacceptable. The Netflix series, at least it mixed in, a good mix of action and, and the characters, they seemed more interesting to me, and this one, lacking Foggy and Karen, that's something that's kind of negative for it. But this, especially this episode, I felt, it's really beginning to make up for it. I don't know if I would maybe give it a 7 quite yet, but you know, there's still you know, a bit more room, you know, with episode 7, 8, and 9. You know, you can look up yourselves how, you know, the whole thing with change of directors. I think I kind of explained it a little bit wrong in my post, but you can look it up yourself. And it was more of like they got, I think his name is Skarsgård, Dario Skarsgård or something, from Punisher, the Netflix Punisher, and they got him to, you know, complete this one. You know, this Born Again. What was the one thing I wanted to add to that? I felt like I wanted to say something else, but yeah, okay, so let's kind of go through this. I like this whole opening over here. And the cutaways now, even though maybe not quite one take, that's fucking badass right there, but even though maybe it's not quite one take, you know, there are long stretches where it is kind of a one take before they cut to a different angle. The bank robber episode, previous one to this one, there's a fight in the stairwell, and that had quite a bit of cutaways. And to me, I felt that's not acceptable for something like this. The Marvel or the Netflix Daredevil did a lot of the, you know, the one-take shots, you know, and very little cutting away. The camera's at, you know, a decent distance, so you can get the full body of Daredevil and his opponent or opponents, and it was far back enough, and it just kind of panned slowly, and it may have done like maybe a few cutaways, but it's for the most part a lot of you know, one shot or one take fights. And I think a lot of it too has to do with the budget. You know, the budget wasn't so big, so they weren't able to do a lot of fancy tricks or showcase, you know, this kind of CG stuff in the fight. But it ended up working for, you know, for the show. So this, I can see how, you know, it can take some getting used to for some folks, but it's getting better with this one. Okay, so let's kind of move on a little bit. I don't want to get flagged on what's this here. Okay, I guess a knife. See, this Muse, he's fighting Muse here. It seems like he has his style, you know, with a knife. His own, you know, knife style. See, like, right... See, starting right there. See how he's doing some upper... Look at that. That's some sort of a, you know, as I like to call it, a type of a Kung Fu kind of move. Like, right here is basic stabbing, you know? Then he implements a kick, see right here. But then starting right there, right here when it comes back now. Pay attention, see? That's a style, you know, when he kicks. So they gave him like a little bit of a type of, I don't know, psychopathic martial arts or something. I like that. But this guy's a sick fuck, this Muse. He drains the blood of his victims and mix it in with like a paint, and he does his graffiti, you know, out on the side of the building, so it, because it's made of blood also, it doesn't wash off. So he's a sick fuck for sure. Something like a, you know, like a John Doe from Seven, or he's right up there, maybe not quite as bad, or like a Hannibal Lecter, or who was the other one, like Machine from 8mm, you know, people like that. Now this is quite badass here. Okay, when he gets up, Daredevil's radar sense comes in. Look at this, because he can see all, 360 and all, spherical all around him. He doesn't. He literally has like eyes in the back of his head. Watch this dodge right here. Look at that. And right here, right when this fucker's gonna stab her, look at that. His baton. Look at that. Look, see how he stopped it with his. Didn't even have to, turn around to see it. It's all part of his powers. So, I love it. See, look again. Stop right here. Look at that, look at that. Okay, and then I like that. Oh, okay, I think this guy, he did like some kind of... He tries to escape. He cut out all the Kingpin parts. Okay. He does this flip and spin. Yeah, we're coming right here. Right there. Look at that. I love that. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so there we go. The Kingpin fight was also okay, but I mean, he was fighting... The guy was not even... he was like a prisoner, so it's like he was fighting a hobo. It wasn't really... It's not impressive for him to take someone out like that, even though the guy had an axe. But it's like he was fighting a hobo. He wasn't... he was malnourished, and he was just kept prisoner for a long time. And he just beat the crap out of him. So... but he wasn't even at 100%. So... So with these last two episodes, 5 and 6, I think I could bump it up now to maybe, let's say 6.5, 6.75, but it's a very strong, 6.75, let's say, so far. So it's beginning to make up for that. And if I'm just judging this episode alone, well, first I'll judge the bank robbery episode, and out of 10, maybe I could give that one a 7, let's say, and this one I can give maybe, to me, I found this one to be very, very good. And finally, Daredevil is fighting another opponent in costume. I don't consider the Bullseye one in the first episode in that costume. To me, if you remember a movie called Kick-Ass, 2010, starring Nick Cage and Chloe Grace Moretz and Aaron Taylor Johnson as Kick-Ass. It was like he was wearing a Kick-Ass outfit, just different colors. So, no. And in season 3 of Daredevil, the Netflix one, I know he was fighting Bullseye, but he was in a Daredevil costume, so he wasn't even as technically his Bullseye persona, but now he's being acknowledged as Bullseye. Even Punisher acknowledged him as Bullseye in, I think it was episode 4. You have Punisher in there, but there was really no action still. So, for Daredevil to go up against another costumed freak, right, with a supervillain named Muse, I think it's really nice to see that finally. In a Netflix one, he's mostly fighting just, nameless thugs or like the Hand. There was Nabu, but again, he wasn't a costumed freak villain, like this asshole here, this sick fuck. This episode here, I would give it personally loved it a lot, so I would give it an 8 out of 10, right? And then the previous one I'd give a 7 out of 10, but this one, for sure, 8 out of 10. Okay, so that's my review so far, though. As a whole, so far, with the 6 episodes totaled, I'd give it like, 6.75, but a strong 6.75. Okay, so, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed this review, and do check it out, and see you. I'm looking forward also to the Wayward Realms. Okay,